All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with Jordan Bianchi. We're motorsports writers at The Athletic, and we have a lot to unpack today because here I am at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's a late one. I know all you guys who are tuning into the live stream are well aware of that because it's past 11 p.m. on the East Coast. It's past 8 p.m. here. And man, I'll tell you what, this race for a while, it looked like it was going to be one of the most straightforward playoff races imaginable in a lot of ways. And then got a little bit of chaos, team chaos for you, Jordan. Ty Dillon was team chaos today. And the whole thing turned on its head. The whole situation changed. And here we are with like I said, a ton to unpack. So, Jordan, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you're here. Late night, but it's okay. Fun. Looking forward to it. Lots to talk about. My dream of Denny Hamlin winning the championship and having NASCAR executives hand him the championship trophy amid a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit, continues on. And the dream, I pray to the holy gods that this happens, that he wins the championship and carries that trophy into court on December 1st and sets it down on the table in the courtroom. That is what I want to see happen. And today, thanks to his remarkable drive at the end, his brilliance at the end, that dream is still alive.
Well, I'm not even sure where to start with this, but I guess we start with Denny because, and we'll talk about how it happened and how he got there. But this was one of those moments where it's just like, wow. I mean, sometimes NASCAR just gives you these amazing sort of, holy crap, I can't believe that just happened. The storylines that are all intertwining. We've talked about Denny trying to get 60 career wins. And I think clearly, I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen this year or earlier this year. He's talking about 60 wins. We were saying, is he ever going to get there? I think that was a topic on our show. Is he ever going to get there? Because he had a new crew chief. Chris Gabehart was gone. You're putting him with Chris Gale, who hadn't had a ton of success with a proven track record.
He didn't really want. Like, be honest. Like, he was very skeptical. You wrote a great thing on The Athletic. You talked to him before the season started. He didn't want him.
Well, I mean, he didn't have a choice. But Chris Gale hadn't been in these situations, right? And even if he did want him at almost age 45, starting over with a brand new crew chief, we said numerous times, Denny, I think I've said probably last year, the year before, this is Denny Hamlin's last best chance, and it's passed, right? Mm-hmm. You just don't see drivers have this kind of success at this age. A lot of drivers are retiring. A lot of drivers are way past their prime and just not winning anymore. And a driver like Denny Hamlin starting over, by the way, in a season when he didn't have a sponsorship, he had blank haulers at Bowman Gray, and with a new crew chief. And it's just like, how is he's got to be, maybe will he ever win again? I think that was more of a question than will he win a series high 6 races this year? Will he win the championship, make it to the Final Four? And so this year's unfolded with all the chaos, with the lawsuit stuff. He then gets win number 60 to not only tie for the top 10 on the all-time wins list, but to launch himself into the championship race, in the race that we constantly talk about at Vegas as this big race that you got to win to, not worry about the next 2 weeks, not have to worry about Talladega. The guy that everything always goes wrong for somehow, the Charlie Brown football guy, he's there. He has won his way into the championship and actually got a break of a caution to have the chance to do it. So, wow. I mean, what can you say? It's just sort of unbelievable.
A remarkable year, remarkable story for a driver, like you said, for a driver at this point in his career to continue to win at this level. I mean, it's not unprecedented to see a driver at this age get one win occasionally and be mildly competitive, but to consistently be this and to be P1 and lock yourself in the championship race, that first guy, 5 of the last 9 guys who have won the first race in this round have gone on to win the championship. And that's not a coincidence. And I think it's especially poignant when talking about Denny Hamlin. Because Denny Hamlin behind the scenes is as tireless worker as you're going to find. He does not get enough credit for how much time he puts in behind the scenes in terms of sim work, meetings, leadership, etc. You're giving a guy who has got a tireless work ethic, who is all in on doing the little things. You're giving him a 3-week head start now, and you're giving his team a 3-week head start, where they can effectively just forget about the next 2 weeks, and their mindset is, boom, we're on Phoenix. That's really dangerous. That is a really dangerous thing. We talk a lot about Joey Logano and that mindset and everything. I think it's fair to apply that to Denny Hamlin in this situation because starting, well, maybe not starting tomorrow, according to crew chief Chris Gale, Tuesday, they're going to be all in on Phoenix. And you just feel like they're going to have something up their sleeve. And we're going to get to this a little bit, but it needs to be stated. We've talked so much about Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano and the Penske cars and what could happen if they get to Phoenix, right? 100%. Well, Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano had bad days today. They are in a point zone. I'm not going to put Blaney in a must-win situation or Logano in a must-win situation because we don't know how Talladega is going to unfold, but they're in a point spot. They may not even get to Phoenix the way it is right now. And that means that opens up the possibilities at Phoenix, and who the favorite is there is almost like a blank slate. And I'm going to go with the guy who's got a head start on everybody, who's a tireless worker. It feels like the pieces of this championship puzzle that Denny Hamlin has never been able to put together is now starting to come together.
Denny Hamlin apparently did 7.5 hours of sim work this week with his team, which is unusually high amount, I guess. And then told us after the race about how, for those of you who don't know, so they do the driver's meeting differently now. It used to be that you do the driver's meeting and you'd have like 2 hours before the race. They'd go back, they'd eat lunch, all the stuff. Now they do the driver's meeting and they walk the red carpet straight out to driver intros and they go on with the whole pre-race ceremonies and stuff. Like they're all in their fire suits already. Denny told us that today after the driver's meeting, there was one more thing he wanted to check. I assume data-wise, he didn't want to get into specifics, but one more thing that he felt like he had maybe overlooked, and he ran back and booked it to his motorhome after the driver's meeting instead of going out to driver intros immediately to look at this one more thing that he felt like he had to look at because it would have bothered him so much to go into this race and not feel like he was fully prepared. And so, yeah, now he can go in and he doesn't have to worry about the questions of the points thing at, what's his strategy at Talladega? What's it going to do?
How
at
are you going to race your
Martinsville?
teammates? That kind of thing. All of that stuff. It's wide open.
It's just about Phoenix. So that's going to be really eye-opening. And we're certainly going to talk a lot about Denny, I'm sure, as Phoenix approaches, because it will be like, can he finally win that elusive championship? But Jordan, you brought up the Team Penske cars, and I want to talk about Penske before Hendrick, because that dynamic now is fascinating. And to hear the drivers talk about it after the race, it really changed so much today what happened with Ryan Blaney. So first of all, Ryan Blaney, Vegas has just been bizarre for him. He hasn't finished well here, but also like he had blown tires in practice sessions here and crashed. And so he made it through this one. And then he has a tire problem in the race and finishes last. Logano was not having a good day, and they were obviously anxious for any sort of strategy call that was going to give them a chance, as they did last year, to do something different. And they got their chance with a 2-tire call. he restarted on the front row, and it could have worked. A couple things happened after they got that front row starting spot. First of all, there was that immediate quick caution, and it involved some of the other cars like SVG, who had also taken 2 tires. So they lost their buffer very quickly to the cars with 4 tires, and suddenly those cars lined up right behind them. And what Logano was going to need to have happen, and Briscoe as well to an extent, although Briscoe had a better shot at it, they needed to get far enough out and have the other people get racing behind them, and then use the clean air to defend their position and hope that the 4 tires couldn't overcome that. Ultimately, it didn't work out for Logano, and as soon as he lost his track position, got back in dirty air, it was just about trying not to bleed spots. But he still gets a decent finish. But that's not good enough, right? Because his points position was so bad coming in. Everybody else had a good day that he was racing against. So the good news for Penske is they have 2 of their best tracks coming up, Talladega and Martinsville. The bad news is, as Logano was talking after the race, now instead of sort of one car being the points car for Penske and one car being the must-win car, now they're sort of both in a must-win. And it's not a total must-win, but he said it would have to be extremely special the next couple weeks.
They need help. They need a lot of help at Talladega. Somebody would have to cry, which is not unrealistic.
Or they're going to have to sweep these next 2 races, which is, again, not impossible, but it's become a much longer shot. But, Jordan, as a result, Kyle Larson was saying this after the race. So we've all been thinking that, okay, probably maybe one Penske car at least is going to be in the Final Four. And if they are in the Final Four, if they're at Phoenix, people feel like, man, these guys are unbeatable. They're going to be the heavy favorites. How can we, we're all racing for second if a Penske car is there. Well, suddenly it's very real possibility a Penske car may not be there. And Larson was like, hey, I feel like we can go race with the Gibbs guys. The Penske guys, he was like, but the Gibbs guys, okay, I feel like I can get there and I can have something for them. Mm-hmm. So if Phoenix turns out to be Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske is not part of this equation, that's a whole different ball game than we've been talking about if a Penske car is involved. Obviously, they won all the championships in the next gen era there. So now, again, to think that we could count them out would be a huge mistake and very stupid. But it suddenly became more realistic. So I think that's super interesting dynamic suddenly.
Yeah, that's why Denny Hamlin winning today is so key, is because now if this becomes a Hendrick versus Gibbs showdown, which it looks like it may, he's got the distinct advantage of this. And that is a big thing. And if I'm Christopher Bell and I get there, I'm feeling really good as well, because he is really good at that track. And he's been there. He's been fast in both the spring and the fall. The Hendrick cars, their speed is kind of fluctuate a little bit. They're more of a springtime fast than fall fast. But yeah, I mean, the championship all of a sudden feels much more wide open than it did, where before it was like, I'm going to pick the 12 or the 22 because it just seems to make sense. Though someone did pick before the playoffs started, did pick Kyle Larson to win the championship. So, what do I know? But I'm back on that bandwagon because I've changed my pick like 5 times.
Did you also not have Denny? You also didn't have Denny in the Final Four, right? So
I think I was bounced between him and Bell. I don't know. Listen, it changes all the time. It literally changes every week. So it's,
Oh, okay.
Whatever which way the wind is. Like last week, Blaney was my champion. This week, I'm going back to Larson because I picked him before the playoffs. So yeah. But it is a much different thing. And the Talladega wrinkle in all of this can't be stated enough, because we don't know how that race is going to unfold. I mean, last year there was a 20-some car pileup, and it messed up the playoffs. Now this year there's less playoff drivers, but still, You don't know. I mean, it very conceivably could be 4, 5, 6 of these guys are wiped out in a big wreck or a couple wrecks, and then all of a sudden, guys that we thought were out of it could shoot up, and you don't know how that's going to unfold. And so this is a really interesting dynamic now with Talladega in this spot as well, because there is a conceivable way of just completely flipping this, because this was Miami last year, which I think it was Las Vegas, Miami. It was like, oh, you're going to Miami. Like, you didn't expect chaos. You didn't expect that, a good number of the playoff guys could have bad days, but that is literally on the table next week. And that's just it's a very interesting tentacle of this unique 3-race round that NASCAR set up.
Well, and William Byron, and I think Dustin Albino from Jayski wrote an article about this, but William Byron had a great point that the fact that Talladega is in this round and not the last round is probably part of the reason why the final 8 are who they are. We don't have any underdog upset picks in the final 8, in part because there wasn't that wild card crazy occurrence in the last round. And so it allowed the sort of strength of the season to get through without having sort of that roadblock that trips them up. Now it's here. How are they going to race it? It's going to be fascinating to see. Everybody was getting stage points today. But as you said, all it takes is one wreck. And now you also have perhaps the 2 favorites anyway, who are going to be going all out, and they don't have to worry about protecting their points position. They're going to be in highly aggressive mode with Blaney and Logano. So,
which they always are at Talladega anyway, by the way. I mean, that is their mindset. They're always, Penske's mindset on these races is always, we're going to be at the front. Now, we may wreck, but if we're going to wreck, we're going to be wrecking leading. Happened last year in Talladega, happened this year at Atlanta, like happened this year in Daytona 500. So, they're going to really be, I mean, they're always an all-in team, but if you can even be more all-in than all-in, they're going to be all-in.
Yeah. No, and Blaney said that as much this week. He said he'd rather be trying to control a line than be further back, because that could be dangerous anyway. So if you're going to get turned from the lead, you take your chances with that versus being somewhere else that you really are not in control at all. But it's just a wild situation to where this has been a totally wide open playoffs to begin with, because really nobody has been super dominant. But now you have the top race winner of the season has made the Final Four. Denny has 6 wins. And it's just it's very, very, very hard to predict, because Talladega is such a wrinkle. You don't know who's going to be leaving in what position. And then Martinsville always has some odd little things as well. And we don't, it's so tough to forecast, because you could say, well, Hendrick they'll be strong, but Gibbs could be strong, but Penske, those are the teams. So
yeah, but Hendrick, I mean, but recent history suggests that Hendrick is not the best in the fall race, right? I mean, their strength has been the spring.
But here's the thing, though, because I agree with you. But Larson again brought up this. Look at what has happened with this tire, with this new shorter track tire, right? Like at Iowa, and I get Iowa's not Martinsville, but Byron was really good at Iowa. So, and I believe that's this tire, right? And you just don't know what this is going to bring. I mean, the tire today was totally throwing teams for a loop. This was a different tire than at Vegas in the spring. This was the Kansas intermediate track tire. And like Chris Gale was saying, because I asked Chris Gale, if you're backing up strategy wise for a minute, remember all these playoff cars started to pit and short pit. And Chris Gale had Denny split that final run in half, or what he thought was going to be that final run. And they were the last playoff car to pit with like 50 to go. And so I said, so were you thinking that you were going to have fresh enough tires, to be able to come back through the field? He said, no. What he noticed the run before that was they had started to cord their tires. And you heard a lot of talk on the team radios for other playoff drivers saying, hey, there's a little bit of courting here. And Gale thought that their tires weren't going to last if they pitted when the other ones did, and that somebody would start to court a tire and drop anchor toward the end of the race. So he just wanted Denny to have the best chance to have tires underneath him for the end. He even thought that, like, Briscoe pitting when he did, that they were banking on another caution because their tires would not have lasted to the end. Like that their strategy was, okay, we're not going to use these all the way to the end. We're banking on a caution to come get more tires. Like, that was their play. So the tire wear that we've seen, even in the last 6 months, this season, it's evolved so quickly that Martinsville is going to be a different Martinsville. Phoenix is going to be a different Phoenix, I think. So, and I tell you what, Phoenix, if it is sort of a tire management race, Hamlin, to your point, being in that would play to his strength, right? Like, if you put him in a situation where, hey, Phoenix tire is going to wear out more, you got to manage this. You got to manage this on a longer run for the championship. That could play very well for him. So we'll see what happens.
New Hampshire had a different tire this year. Ryan Blaney was really fast there. Same similar track setup. I'm going to take the guy, doesn't matter the tire compound, who has won the last 2 races at Martinsville, and feel pretty confident about that. I'm going to limit and say that he's the favorite there. And if we're talking about tires and potential issues with tires, what is the best asset that Ryan Blaney brings as a race car driver? He is very, very good on long green flag runs, and you need to be good on long green flag runs at Martinsville. So they may be a different tire compound, maybe different, but I still expect that the 12 is going to be the driver to beat at Martinsville. We'll see what happens at the Phoenix. It'll be interesting. But I just think that if you're a Ryan Blaney fan, I wouldn't hit the panic button yet. I still would feel pretty good about, I wouldn't say I feel pretty good about it, but I still feel like you have a path to get to Phoenix and not have to, not be freaking out over these next 2 weeks. Yeah, it's going to be a little hairy, but he went to Martinsville last year, a week after coughing up the lead at the Homestead, a race he should have won, and he didn't, and bounced back the next week and wins at Martinsville. So I still think Blaney's in a really good spot. Logano, to me, is the one where I'm worried. One, not a lot of speed today. And then we shouldn't be surprised by this. The 22 teams just does not have speed pretty much in most places now, except for the mile track. But man, when he took those 2 tires, and I know he's on 2 tires and everybody else on 4 or whatever, but man, he just looked like he was had an anchor to his car, and people were blowing by him. And it was just the lack of performance from that car is so noticeable, and it just jumps out. And it's really hard to expect if they're in a situation where they have to go and win at Martinsville. That's going to be tough, man. It's going to be really, really tough for that team. And I think,
but he could easily win at Talladega. So,
well, I wouldn't say easily. I would not say easily. When's the last time Joey Logano won on a drafting, at Daytona or Talladega? It's been a while,
But he puts himself in position.
He does put himself in position, but he does not finish races, though. That's the problem, and he can't afford not to finish. And we'll see. It's going to be interesting, but in the dynamics, how this unfolds is going to be fascinating. But I guess that for them is Talladega is one of those races where you do set it up in advance of how are we going to run this? Are we running for points? Are we going to flip stages? That kind of thing. And if you're them, it's what do we need to do to put ourselves in the best position to win that race? Plain and simple. Forget points, forget anything else. I guess if there's a silver lining in that, it's that. But today was a big one because you didn't expect the 22 to pull a miracle, but the doors felt a little open there, and they couldn't pull through, and now it's going to be an uphill slog.
Jordan, this race was going to be a Hendrick party. This was going to be a massive, monumental turnaround for them. 2 weeks ago at Kansas, it seemed like it was all Toyota. Same 1.5 mile track, same tire. Toyota was the top 5 on that late restart, and they all raced each other hard, and Chase Elliott ended up stealing the win. Today, I thought this weekend it was going to be another Toyota show. William Byron was fastest in practice by pretty much every metric you looked at. And then they were headed toward what seemed like easily going to run 1-2. Larson had just passed Byron, but Byron's race wasn't over by any stretch. He was going to have a chance to regroup and charge back. But they were 1-2. And suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, certainly out of nowhere for Byron, Ty Dillon appears, slow on the track, trying to get to pit road. Byron smashes into him, obviously destroys his race and potentially his playoffs. And then the ensuing caution jumbles up the order, and now you've got different people on the front row. Now, Larson's lost control of the race because he's going to have to pass some people. Ultimately, Larson is in contention late, but Hamlin goes from 6th to 1st on that final 14 laps and is able to get the win. So you go from what looked like an unbelievable Hendrick day, huge turnaround from Kansas. They're going to run 1-2. Larson or Byron are probably going to lock themselves into the final 4, to suddenly Byron is below the cut line after leading the points for most of the year, being the regular season champion, leading the overall points. I know you don't look at that, but the most points scored in the season. And suddenly it could be all for naught, and he's going to be in a tough position. You don't know what's going to happen at Talladega, but Byron has not had the greatest experiences at Martinsville, certainly, in the playoff race. So yes, in the playoff race. So, man, an unbelievable, just, and I asked Larson, I was like, how do you wrap your head around, you guys are going to win this race and you control this race to sort of like a weird fluke thing just happens. And he said, honestly, I don't think it's that much of a fluke. Like, I've seen stuff like this happen before where people come to pit road late, but I don't know. What do you make of that? If you're Hendrick, are you happy that you sort of figured it out and had speed and never count Hendrick out? Or are you like, man, what a just crushingly missed opportunity? How do you, or both, I guess?
I was going to say, why can't it be everything?
Yeah.
I mean, one, first of all, I think we need to throw Chase Elliott in there as well, because he was running really, really well today.
Right.
Qualified well. I think he finished 4th in stage 1, was really well positioned to have
all 3 of their cars were ahead of the Toyotas
running
until his uncontrolled tire.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Elliott was in a really, really good position to get a big points haul. I don't think he had the same speed as the 9, as the 24 and the 5, but he was in a really good day to get points when he needed it, and then that went out the window with the uncontrolled tire penalty, which is unfortunate. It is encouraging that Hendrick had speed. Like, we shouldn't count them out ever. And I know it was, before, when this playoff started, you kind of said like, oh, these guys are out to lunch, blah blah blah. But it's like, can never count them out. And it's great that they found speed. And certainly if you go back to Kansas 2 weeks ago and you compare their performance on there to what they were today, it's night and day different, right? But in the grand scheme of things, what the next 2 races in this round, one is a drafting track, one is a short track. Like, it's hard to like discern and say, great, you had speed there. How does that apply to these next 2 races? And you don't. It's so vastly different, and they're all 3 are different. So it's hard to carry over. Talladega is Talladega. Chase is really good there. William is really, really good there. Kyle has gotten much better on these tracks. He's won a stage in a few of these places now, and he's due for one of these wins. But if you're Kyle Larson, I think you almost have to do it individually. If you're Kyle Larson, I think you feel really good about today. Like, we went there. One of the main competitors for the championship is out the door with Ryan Blaney. You don't want to see your teammates have bad days, but another guy that we're fighting for a playoff spot had a bad day in William Byron. So that's 2 out the window. Joey Logano, who we all kind of think was in a must win throughout this whole thing, he didn't win today. Like, you're Kyle Larson, you feeling pretty good. Yeah, you sure as heck would want that win, and that you missed out on it sucks. And to see Denny Hamlin do that probably adds to it. But I still think you're feeling pretty good right now. You largely did what you needed to do today. You got a bunch of points. You had a great finish second. So that's good. Chase Elliott, if you're Chase Elliott, I think you're frustrated. Like, man, we qualified well. We did the thing. We figured this out. We're doing what we need to do, and then it just went sideways on the pit stop. But that's kind of been the tale of their season, where they just can't put whole races together consistently. And I don't know how you make the William Byron thing. Like, that's hard. I mean, that's the cruelty of the playoffs. And a slower car comes down the track and pulls in front of you basically, and there's nothing you can do. And what do you just you rant, you rave, you swear, you shrug your shoulders, and I don't know what else you can do, because that just sucks. It's just, but this is the nature of the playoffs in a lot of respects. It's cruel. It can be very cruel.
Well, let's try to unpack that, because this is a really difficult, admittedly, thing for me to break down, because I'm not behind the seat. I don't study pit road entry every week. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is going to be one of the things where I really want to hear from the drivers on various shows this week, Denny or Harvick or whoever, right? But it didn't seem like, from what I can tell, that, because originally, like, I think on Byron's radio, they were like, oh, he came, Dylan came from 2 lanes up down the track. And I thought, it didn't seem like it was a extreme, like, way but what was different was he wasn't, you didn't see a lot of waving. You didn't see a lot of alerting another car. And even though it sounded like his spotter was saying, hey, we let them know, clearly they didn't know. And I find it ironic that with all of the talk about manufacturer teamwork and communication over the last week, yes, you have a Chevy pitting very, very late, regardless of, they're not racing for position. So it's not like, sometimes I can understand, hey, you don't really want to wave off a driver too much because you're coming to pit road and you're trying to short pit. You know what I mean? So you're not trying to alert the competition, or you can wave very late or whatever. But clearly, like, he was on a different pit strategy by pitting way later after it seemed like the pit cycle was well over. Clearly Byron didn't think that there was any cars left to pit. And so you would think, if you're going to be in that situation, you'd better make damn sure that the people around you are like, okay, yeah, this guy's pitting. Hey, he's going to be pitting. Watch up ahead. He's going to be pitting. Waving a lot, or making sure the spotter knows whatever. It just seemed like that didn't happen here. Now, was he super high on the track? That didn't seem like it, but on the
broadcast, Letarte and Jeff Burton both made a point that he wasn't. There was other drivers who were actually higher on the track at points, and he wasn't excessively high up. Did he come down? Maybe a little bit, yeah, but it wasn't like he wasn't up like 3 lanes. He was basically kind of running the line that a lot of drivers run to get onto pit road, according, from what Letarte and Burton said on the broadcast.
But again, so the difference is you got to let.
That's the difference.
At some point, the communication's got to be able to let people know what's happening. And
that's my biggest beef with it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think that it's wild that, again, like the whole talk this week after the Roval was about, manufacturer stuff and what people know and don't know, and the situations people are in, and what should be communicated and what shouldn't be communicated. And, we're going to be talking about manufacturer stuff at Talladega coming up this week. We're also probably going to be talking about it again at Martinsville, right? Because it's going to be, well, is anybody going to do it? You do something for me, if you're a Chevy driver. And again, like, obviously Ty Dillon didn't mean to do this. And obviously William Byron wasn't trying to ruin his playoffs by running into somebody, but a Chevy car impacted that wasn't in the playoffs, impacted the top two running Chevys, changed the whole scope and course of this race and potentially the championship. So it's just wild. It's wild how this stuff can happen. And if it's, why doesn't, I guess if nobody did anything wrong or whatever, then why doesn't this happen more often? Because this seemed like something that seemed unusual to me, or else why wouldn't we see this happen all the time? I guess.
I mean, we don't see it all the time because there's a communication breakdown at some point here, whether it was between the spotter and Ty Dillon or the two spotters on top of the tower between the two teams. There was some kind of breakdown here in communication that either didn't happen or didn't happen to the full effect it needed to have. But the bigger picture, and I think you hit on this, is this was an accident per se. I mean, literally, no one planned on this, but this was really unnecessary because this is a driver and team in the 10, Ty Dillon and the 10 team, they're having a bad day. Like they're just they're out to lunch today. They're not having a good day. Their average running position, by the way, was 27th, or the highest they ran today was 27th. So like they're obviously just not in this. In this situation, late in a race, you would feel like there should be awareness of like, listen, we are laps down. Like we don't want to screw anybody. Forget the Chevy thing. Like we don't want to screw anybody up. We don't want to do anything here to do anybody. Like you should be like shooting off fireworks on top of the spotter stand or like waving flags or something to like let everybody know like we're gonna pit. Or you just say, listen, the leaders are on our butt. They're coming quick on new tires, by the way. So they're gonna get there pretty quick. Like we're just gonna wait maybe we either pull over sooner. And we're just going to unconventionally get on the pit road, different than we normally do. But again, you don't have to worry about track position or anything like that because your day's already over with pretty much. Or you just wait to pit when you're out of there. You let them go by and then you pit. Like it just feels like this could have been handled very differently than it needed to be. Whereas the 10 felt like it just was in this middle of a green flag sequence. I was like, we're just going to pit here because this is when we're supposed to pit, instead of like taking a step back and looking at the situation saying, okay, do we need to do it the way we're doing it here? And the answer was no. And that unfortunately for William Byron, he's the casualty in this.
Yeah. I mean, I heard, I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the quote in front of me, but Ty Dillon had said something like, we were having a bad day and then we were trying to just stay out and to get in our window. We were going to take our medicine here and pit late. But it's like, again, like if you're going to do that, it's like you almost have to be
extra,
err extremely on the side of
extra careful,
making sure nothing happens. Because imagine, look, I mean, the Ty Dillon doesn't do stuff like this often, so he's not going to get pummeled for it. But imagine if, like, Catherine Legg did this,
Cody Ware,
right?
Ty Gibbs,
or even Hocevar.
Oh, there's a long list of guys. Ty Gibbs, I mean, there's a long list. Ricky Stenhouse.
The reaction to this would be so much worse. Like, just 100%. Like raking people over the coals. But it's just so unfortunate, I guess. And I mean, Byron again has had the most consistent year overall, right? Based on he was leading the points. And just to have it in the one of the biggest races of the year, when you're having a great day, to have it end like that, man, it's just unbelievable. But that's racing, I guess. So
it's unfortunate.
It's wild.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, yeah.
Honestly, a couple other people who, not to the same degree because they're above the cut line. And by the way, let's go to the cut line real quick, if you don't mind, because we haven't really.
Right here, you need it.
Yeah, I have it. So we've got Larson is plus 35. So by no means safe. I mean, in a decent spot, but by no means safe if you crash Talladega. Bell is plus 20. Briscoe is plus 15. Byron minus 15. Elliott minus 23, Logano minus 24. Actually, not terrible shape for Logano considering
All things considered,
everything.
No.
And Blaney minus 31.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying this for two people above the cut line, but I really think Bell and Briscoe are flying home right now, really feeling a lot of regret over missed opportunities as well. And it's not because they wrecked, but
they didn't win.
They had the opportunity to win, and finishing third and fourth is not gonna soothe anything there.
Yeah.
There's no good point stays for them when they had a chance to win.
Bell multiple times in his interview with NBC Sports after the race said, "This is deja vu. Where I feel the same way today that I felt a year ago." And and I'm not Christopher Bell, so I can't sit there and tell you how he feels. To me, I looked at it like they just didn't seem like they had the same speed today that they did a year. I mean, this wasn't their race to win. I felt like today. I really never felt like that. I felt like them finishing where they did was they made hay. They did a good job. But I also understand coming into this race, their expectations are much different. They're thinking, hey, we have been really fast at intermediate racetracks. We're really, really good here. Like this is an opportunity to win this race. So if your mindset is win, because we don't want to have to deal with Talladega, we don't want to deal with Martinsville, finishing, top 5 is not good enough. And then the Briscoe thing, I don't know. I mean, could Briscoe have done anything differently there? I mean, 2 tires. I mean, Denny's coming on fresh tires. Like, I don't think Briscoe should be overly hard on himself, because I don't really felt like I never really felt like realistically he had a chance to win this race at the end of the race. Like, it felt like the 11 was coming hard, and if the 11 wasn't going to do it, the 5 sure as hell was going to beat him, and they did. And so I don't feel like if you're Chase Briscoe, you're beating yourself up over the end of the sequence. Maybe you're looking at this race as a whole and that they lost control of it. They had a pit stop issue early in the race, and then lost track position, and then he got into the wall a little bit, and that cost them track position, and they never got control of the race back. Maybe that's what you're looking at, but it feels like this was a race, like finishing third, fourth. That's about as good as it's going to be for that team today.
Yeah, I think, because he tweeted something like that one's going to sting for a while. I think for Briscoe, it was like, man, we had an amazing car. As you said, they had that slow pit stop, but I think the damage that whatever they got at one point from hitting the wall, that was when like the top 5 cars that he had been up with, they got away and he was fading a little bit, and it sounded like it was probably because of the damage. Then they did get the 2 tires, but I don't think that's what he's regretting. You're only going to be able to do so much in that situation. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, man, we had a car to win this race, and we were unable to do it. And I think Bell as well is probably the same way. And I think his deja vu feeling is not so much that like, hey, we were going to win today, but the fact that we had a chance and weren't able to close it. Because he had that feeling last year where he thought he had this sinking feeling that his inability to close out the race when Logano had that different pit strategy, that was going to doom him, right? And it did ultimately, because the Martinsville thing. So, and now if you're Bell, you come out of here and you're like, man, we had a chance to win and lock ourselves in the Final Four, and we were, hell-bent on getting revenge today, or avenging last year's setback. Now we got to go to Talladega, where, who knows? And then you're going to send me to Martinsville, and it's like, I don't feel so great about all this right now. You know what I'm saying? That if you're Bell. So that's where I think probably, I assume he's probably talking about the sinking feeling of like, man, we really let one get away. But, hey, you're still above the cut line. So
could be worse. You could be Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano.
Yeah. 2 of my Final 4, by the way. So,
good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
I had Blaney winning the championship in like one of my 15 picks, so it's okay.
Well, I've stayed consistent with mine. I still have Logano winning. So,
even odd year, I told you he wasn't going to do it.
Oh, just last week you were talking about how he's the Undertaker coming out of the coffin, and you can never count him
out.
out.
Undertaker last week coming out of the coffin at the Roval, but then you have to look forward. We turn the page, and you've got to reassess.
Okay. Well, speaking of Joey Logano, if you don't mind me plugging something that I'll be having on The Athletic this week, I had a great interview with Joey Logano this week for about 30 minutes. I'm going to be writing it. It was fascinating because he just looks at all this so much differently than everybody else, and he knows how much it irritates everybody and how much he annoys everybody. And like, he's not backing down from it at all.
No.
And it's just so interesting no, it's not refreshing. It's just super fascinating because, like, you heard Dale Jr. on Dale Jr. Download this week saying, every time Joey Logano looks in the camera and talks about how great the playoffs are, he's like, I like the playoffs less. But Joey, doubles down on it. And he's not going to be like, no, all right, people don't want to hear this, I'm going to shut up about it. He's like, no, I'm going to talk more about it and how great it is and how much I think it's good for the sport. And he's sort of like fine being this outlier because he's being true to what he believes. And, I guess sort of like you, Jordan, on this podcast, as much as you irritate everybody, you're still not going to shut up about it. But,
it's hard to be, I'm sorry.
Well, it was an interesting conversation. I think that people will like to check it out. So, and by the way, Jordan, you can also check out Jordan's story about a high school in Oklahoma that had a racing team. It's kind of interesting. You don't see that every day. So
no, it's cool. Help the kids, man. The kids learn math, science, and business skills, and they go and win races. And there's a racing team, Warner High School in Oklahoma. It's a cool thing. I'm all about the kids. You know that, Jeff. I love the kiddos.
Oh yeah, yeah. Big fan. And I also had a story this week about the whole how NASCAR should police race manipulation, stuff like that. And then guess what? We're going to get a lot more information or talk about that, I bet, because Mike Ford, NASCAR spokesman who often spars with Denny Hamlin and he of Holler Talk fame on the podcast, he's going on DBC tomorrow. He's going on Door Bumper Clear. He's the guest.
I thought about just going up there in the studio, just sitting in the corner, just because I kind of want to witness it. I
can't wait. I think it's going to be awesome.
I'm excited. I love Ford. Yeah. Ford's great. And then Ford knows what he's walking into. And he'll be fine. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be really, I don't think it's going to be combative. I think it's going to be really insightful and interesting because I don't think that Freddie and Mike Ford are both New York guys. They both like to give people crap. And so I think we'll actually, there'll be sort of a coming together rather than like a hateful argument type situation, but it's going to be a great dynamic on DBC. Wait.
So
can't wait. That's great. And OD was on Dale Earnhardt Jr. Last week with Dale. It was great. That was podcast. Very interesting. Some interesting comments there. One thing that OD kind of alluded to, and he kind of said it, but I think, and I've heard the same, is that they talked about the All-Star race next year being at Dover and what that could look like. And I think everybody's agrees, you have to do something really special for that race. And the expectation is that you're probably going to see a run what you brung kind of thing to really kind of allow that. And OD said that in the show of hey, if we give the teams more of a runway to get ready for this, we feel like we can do that. So we'll see. But it's been overall really good kind of state of the sport of topics and stuff like that. I thought so. If you haven't listened to that, make sure you listen.
What I thought was interesting is I think they're striking the tone that they need to strike at this point, with NASCAR sort of being at a crossroads in a way. It jumped out to me when he talks about, how they sort of left people behind when they, did stuff like change the schedule and, left markets. And, I think there was such a long time in NASCAR where, Brian France made some decisions that he obviously thought were best, but it was Brian France making a lot of moves. Mm-hmm. And it was I disagreed with many of them, most of them at the time, and I think a lot of fans did too. And then so you've had NASCAR in a way, even after he's not running things anymore, trying to undo a lot of the moves that were made.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you can't just, I don't think it's been as simple or straightforward for them up to this point as let's just undo everything, because so much had gone down a certain road, whether it was with the schedule or whether it was the playoff format, whatever it is, all these rules and all this stuff. And they're getting to a point where now they're striking this tone of like, let's get back to the basics in a way. What can we do to get back to the basics? O'Donnell on the podcast talked about, hey, we're gonna raise horsepower. The driver said this week again, like Denny's been saying on the podcast, right? Like, it's not going to be a major change. Larson said, please don't shill this to the fans, to the media. Like, please don't sell this as it's going to be some giant thing. Like, you guys would be doing a disservice if you think it's going to make some big change. Larson told a story of, he went to test recently, if I'm paraphrasing this correctly, he went to test at Kershaw in South Carolina, and he does this test day, and he does the test. He gets on the plane for the next race, and they go, hey, what did you think about the 750 horsepower package? And he's like, huh? They're like, you just ran the 750 that whole day at the test. He's like, what? Huh? I did? He didn't even know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like it makes a lot of a difference, but all the drivers, when you ask them about it, they say it's directionally the right way to go, right? Like, so
yes.
Maybe, especially with the tires getting better, and Goodyear has unquestionably made gains with the tires, making them fall off more. When you combine the tire gains they made with some percentage, who knows what percentage it's better? 10% better, 5% better?
Anything is better than nothing.
Yeah. So to have 750, they're at 670 right now. So it's not going from 670 to 900, but O'Donnell on the podcast said, I think he said it would be like $40 or $50 million for the industry too.
And that's where I feel like sometimes there's a disconnect of like, hey, we really want this. Okay, that's cool. Like, sure, that would be great to have this, but you can't go from A to D without going through steps B and C. And sometimes people just want to hop ahead. Like, we all want, but and people are like, well, you just do it anyway. Forget about the money, right? Well, you can't forget about the money. Like, somebody's got to pay for this. And that's the thing. And so to your point, Jeff, and I agree with you, like, this is encouraging. Like, this is a much more receptive leadership group than ever before in NASCAR history. Like, they're more open to criticism. They're more open to feedback. It's not a our way or the highway, hell or high water kind of thing. Like, there's committees and there's collaboration. There's all of this stuff. With the teams and the manufacturers and everything. And you could even make a case, there may be overly collaborative sometimes where like, no, man, just you're in charge, make the decisions and roll with it. Right. But this is, and there was a lot of things from the Brian regime, especially when you take a look at the schedule, that you're still kind of picking up the pieces a little bit. Right. And it's just part of it. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of things that can be different or maybe can be improved in this sport right now. And it's not like NASCAR's burying its head in the sand and saying, hey, no, everything is good here. We're okay. Like, they acknowledge publicly and privately, like, yeah, well, they're here. We could be better in a lot of areas. And they're at least trying to do that and this more than I do, because you were around at that time, but at least I know a little bit of where, with Brian, it was like, nope, everything is great because I said it's great. And you don't know what you're talking about. Is that fair?
Yeah, the whole mentality was like that from, public relations wise. I mean, anybody that said anything negative, it was like, let's attack this person. I experienced that. So, I do think though it's important for NASCAR to, and that's why I like the tone that I heard from O'Donnell on the Dale Jr. downloads, because it was like, yeah, hey, you know what? We got stuff wrong. And that's before he was in charge. He was around, but like, I don't think that they could come out and say, hey, Brian France really like put us in a bad spot here. on a lot of things, but they can come out and say, hey, listen, we got this wrong in terms of moving this or doing this to the playoffs. And that's why I think everything's being looked at now. Like, what can we do? What is the middle ground? And, there's a lot of like, oh, they listen to the fans too much. But I think what happened was they got themselves in a downward spiral of like, hey, ratings are going down or attendance is going down from what it was at the peak. And they're like, okay, fans, like what are you mad about? What are you upset about? And that opened this whole discussion of like, well, we want this. And this is why I think to some degree, everybody is so strong now about their opinions, is like, that they're listening and they're saying we're listening. So everybody's yelling as loud as they can about their viewpoint, about their side, because everybody thinks that they know or they feel what is going to be best for the sport. And so it's like, who's going to yell the loudest and make the change happen for their respective viewpoints? But I think that all goes back to the bind that they got themselves in the first place. And now it's like this quicksand where it's like, you keep trying to do this and this and this and listen to this person, and you sink further.
Happy, that's the problem.
Yeah. Right. But so if you can get to a point where you have, okay, we're going to do a reset here next year. We're going to do this. We're going to add more horsepower. We're going to tweak the playoffs. We're going to try to do something to the car. We're going to do whatever they come up with. This whole campaign they're teasing. And they say, all right, let's try to rebuild from here in a way. I think that makes sense to me. That's kind of what I would do in a fantasy world if I was in charge and I could say, okay, like we just need to just take a step back for a second, take a deep breath, reset, because I do think that as much as there is a cycle of negativity, that the people, even the people that are very angry or yelling about this or that, I think that they are saying that because they want their sport to be the way that they want it and what they remember about it. I think even though it doesn't come across well, and like social media is very toxic, I think most people are coming from a good place on it of why they're saying these things, because it's something they enjoy and they want it to be better. So I'm hopeful that announcements like the horsepower thing, although it's not going to change as much as what everybody wanted, it's at least like, hey, everybody said they wanted this. Everybody said we want to try it. Let's see. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. But you can't go all the way until you've at least seen if it is going to be like, because they can't spend $50 million and say, all right. And then all of a sudden everybody goes 900 horsepower and they go, oh crap, that didn't work with this car anyway. Like, everybody just spent this money for nothing. So,
well, let's not forget too, there's also a new engine formula that's coming in, not too far down the road. And so to ask current OEMs to say, hey, we're going to do this for next year. And oh, by the way, in X number of years, we're going to go to this, like that's asking a lot. Where I get frustrated with this, and NASCAR's in a tough spot in the sense that you're never going to appease everybody. So how do you do this? How do you implement change? And, how do you move forward and take the sport in a direction where you can grow the sport? Where every change you make is picked apart. You're never going to make everybody happy. And I don't even know if you can make sometimes it doesn't feel like you can make a majority of people happy. And the horsepower thing is a great example this week. And is where, NASCAR announces this, right? And it's like, okay. And instead of, and I understand the frustration and I get it, but instead of, hey man, like we're getting what we want. We're getting the change, the short track package, which everybody is maligned and ripped apart and this and this. And I'm not saying that they should be doing a celebration and spiking the football, but they're listening to your point. They are listening. They're making changes. They're not burying their head in the sand. But it was a lot of, well, why don't they do that for every racetrack? They need to do that. They need to have this on every racetrack. Or why are they not going to 900? And it's like, it's frustrating to see that, because like you like step back and like, y'all are never going to be happy. Like there's just a segment of people you just don't feel like you're ever going to make happy. And I don't know how you satisfy everybody when it seems like there's all of these different factions right now. And
I'm sorry. Go
ahead. No, go ahead.
I just think in that case, you just have to say, all right, listen, we know we're not going to make everybody happy. So let's just do what we think is the best thing. You took the feedback. Hey, let's try to make the best decision we can and stick by it and live with it. And let's just go forward,
Yeah. And I
and
think they
hope
do that. And I think they really do that because they understand, like, listen, we're not going to make there is no way to make everybody happy. And we're going to take feedback and we're going to do it. And I've heard this. I think OD made this analogy on the show with Dale Jr. And I've heard Joey Logano talk about this, with him before, of like NASCAR will go to the drivers and other people in the industry, and they'll get their feedback, and then they'll maybe go in a different direction. And people are like, well, you asked me my opinion. They kind of assuming like you asked me my opinion, you're going to take my opinion. It's like, no, we listen to what you say, but just because we listen to what you say doesn't mean we're going to go, because we're trying to build a consensus. We're trying to get different perspectives. And so I do think ultimately NASCAR has its best intention. Its intentions are pure. Like, they want to grow the sport. They want to make the product better. It behooves them to do that across the board. It's not like they're trying to taint the racing and the product. And it often feels like you get a lot of, oh, they don't care. And it's like, oh, OD's a suit. He's not a racer. It's like, dude's been around the sport for a long time. Like, the guy knows what he's talking about. And they do have the best of intentions of what they're doing. And it feels like I think they're doing a better job of kind of blending old and new in a lot of things. And I always refer back to this when I give this example, but the schedule is a perfect way of that. Of like, you have the newer races, and whether it's Chicago or Mexico City or San Diego, and that's awesome. But you also you can't ignore the tradition of the sport, which is old school tracks like a Darlington, or Bowman Gray, or North Wilkesboro, and you have that. And there is a nice blend of that. And they've done a really good job on the schedule side of that. And now taking that model of blending that, I would like to see that extended into other areas.
Jordan, it's time to guess the good race poll. And I'm down to the last gasp. My back's against the wall. I've got to win, sort of like I've got to go on some miraculous run.
You're Joey Logano. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty much down. I mean, actually, honestly, what it is, I'm down 3-0 in a 7-game series, essentially. Your magic number to clinch, according to Big Joe Wall, you need one more win. If you get any of the next 4 races correct, you are the Good Race Poll champion for this year. I know. I see the smile. I see the smirk. Can't wait for that to be screenshotted in a meme. So I really gotta I can't overthink this. I just can't overthink this. I'm not even gonna look at stuff. I'm just gonna go straight up, a simple number, an easy number that I think it's gonna be. So, I'm already set. So, are you ready? God, please don't think for too long yet again.
I'm way overthinking this. Damn it. All right, I'm gonna roll with what I was gonna be cute and do something, but I'm just gonna stick with what I had planned. Here we go.
Okay. Go ahead. What do you got?
72. 80. 72.
Are you trying to give me a win?
72. I'm not arguing with you about this. I'm telling you, 72, man. Every week you make fun of my picks, and I just keep winning. So whatever.
Why? Why so low?
I think we both would agree, because I know we were messaging about this, that the first 3/4 of this race was not the most entertaining.
Right.
Okay. And the finish was great. The finish was fantastic, but also unpopular winner. You're going to get people upset that William Byron was crashed out of the race, and his season is now, he's in a points hole, even though he was very consistent this year. And so people are going to take shots at the format and everything, because I've seen it. So yeah, I'm going to go 72. And I think I will say this, there was such an expectation for this race being so good because Kansas was so good, last mile and a half. And I don't think competitively it was that great. The end was great, but most of it was not. So I'm going to go 72. We'll see.
So last year's fall race that Logano won was 65.9.
Okay.
And I think that is spring 2 years ago got 48. That's not good for me. But all the other next gen races have been above what the number you're saying. So I don't know. I feel like it should be in the 80s, honestly. No, am I crazy?
I think you're overselling, and I think you're forgetting.
Really?
This was not a great race.
This today, this felt like the kind of race that was early in the playoff era, like sort of like the Brad Keselowski Texas era, right?
Yeah, but those were all track position, and it was really hard to pass. And that's not.
No. What I'm saying is, like, I'm talking about like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm saying the chaos element of it, like the wildness, like the whoa, I can't believe this is.
There was one chaotic moment with there was one chaotic moment.
Not really.
Like what, Dylan? What was the other one? What am I missing? What am I forgetting?
The whole end sequence. I mean, Denny went.
That wasn't chaotic though. That was good racing. That wasn't chaotic. That was just good racing.
Okay, so that goes in the plus category,
but Denny won, so that's negative.
It's just to some people, I guess. All right,
let's check out here.
I don't think the winner
70
affects the poll as everybody else, as much as everybody else thinks it does. But I guess I'm
70,
maybe alone on that. But anyway,
78, 74. I'm looking in the comments. 67, 70. Yeah, 65. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, well, we'll find out. And still, a lot of people want to know what the bet is going to be, but nobody wants that.
I get to pick. Why? I want to do hot wings.
That is so dumb.
Oh my god! Yeah, because your ideas are brilliant.
Again, for me to sit on camera and eat some hot wings and then choke and be like, oh my god, oh, it's so hot. Oh, I need some water and milk.
And walking around Martinsville Speedway for 50 laps is entertaining. Because that was your idea.
I don't think it's supposed to be entertaining. But
well, you just said, how is that any better than your idea?
I mean, I volunteered to do a stand-up comedy club. I don't want to do that, but I said I'd do the Greyhound bus. I said I'd walk around Martinsville and eat the hot dogs and take
I said last week on this show you could do the Martinsville thing, and you said no, that wasn't going to work for logistic reasons.
All right, fine, I'll do that. I don't know when I'll do it, but okay. I guess I could come up early for the Clash or something.
Oh, hey, well, no. Doesn't Bowman Gray have hot dogs? Like, don't they have like some famous hot dogs or something? Or
and I know that you're talking about the hot dog stand near Bowman Gray that you went to with.
Yeah. Okay.
Kennedy.
Why don't we modify the bet then? Why don't we do something of like, we'll just buy the hot dogs. I'll buy the hot dogs for you. And it's a smaller track. So the number of hot dogs, we'll just do it at Bowman Gray for the Clash because it starts the year. It'll be perfect. You're going to be here anyway. I'll buy the hot dogs. You pick however number of hot dogs you eat. We subtract that from 50 laps from walking around Bowman Gray, which to me is so boring, but like whatever. Like the hot wings, people are going to get entertained at like there's a reason that people watch Hot Wings, that show on YouTube. People love that show. It's entertaining as hell to watch people choke to death on super hot wings.
It's all right, whatever. Anyway, all right. Well, everybody, we will be back with you for the next 3 weeks in person. So if you really love these arguments, you get to see us in the same screen.
I'm looking at the comments, man. Hot wings.
Okay.
Hot wings. Would watch. Hot wings. Exclamation point. Hot ones is a thing, Jeff. What's the problem? People have spoken, Jeff.
Okay.
Perfect.
Stupid. It's really stupid.
So was a lemonade stand, but I embraced it.
All right.
You got to be more
positive
in your attitude. Don't be such a downer.
Okay. Yeah. So Talladega next week. We'll both be there. And then Martinsville. And then I could knock out the Martinsville right now, right this weekend. If I lose this week. If I lose this week. I could get that over with pretty quickly. The hot dogs will be ready and everything.
There you go.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks as always for listening. We appreciate you checking us out. And even as Denny said, Denny was nice to the fans today. So Jordan, you can be nice to the fans too, and say that you appreciate everybody.
I love people.
Okay.
I'm a fan.
They love you too. You are a fan favorite.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks always for listening. We will talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody.